All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for bearing with us as we troubleshooted those technical difficulties. Good morning. So we'll be talking about ASU's BI tool ecosystem and how to navigate it as an analyst. So hi, I'm Alexis Pummel.
And I'm Matthew Clements.
And our agenda today, we'll be going through just generally the ASU data ecosystem, the tools that are available to you as an ASU employee, how to request access to those tools, the governance that's associated with using data at ASU, any additional resources, and leaving some time at the end for questions. So kicking off, here's our data ecosystem at a high level. For our ecosystem, it really comes into four main categories. Data sources, like our databases, data lake, and data files, which we'll be getting into a little bit later, data extraction, data visualization, and finally, consumption to our end user. So getting into our actual data sources, I do want to first establish what the difference is between a data lake, database, and data files. Those are our three high-level sources of data. I'm going to highlight specifically purpose for our data lake, database, and data files. Data lake is for analytics, data science, and machine learning. Database is for transactional and analytical processes. And data files is more for simple storage and very kind of rudimentary data analytics. So getting into our actual sources in ASU. For our data lake, we leverage something called S3. And S3 is our enterprise repository for storing and retrieving our data files. It's kind of similar to a database. For our databases, it falls into three main sources. So our operational data store, or sometimes referred to as ODS. This is intended to source all data from enterprise systems, which can be used mainly for application development and integration. Next, we have Redshift, also called our Enterprise Data Warehouse, or EDW. This is really the main source of data that a lot of analysts are using at ASU. So it's intended for reporting and analytics across the enterprise. And lastly, we have our AUDB, or Analytics User Database. This is a Postgres database intended for departmental use for using their own data. Next, we have data files. So SharePoint, that's what's having your Excel files. FSX is also a different file storage opportunity. And lastly, Dropbox. All of those are very simple storage opportunities for our data files. So to give some more perspective on how our source systems play with our data lake, and I'm going to focus on Redshift here because that is our main, avenue of consuming data here at ASU. We first start with source systems. So this could be something like PeopleSoft, Canvas, or Salesforce. We actually have over 40 source systems. We then extract this data leveraging a tool called SnapLogic. We have multiple jobs that essentially go out and pull the data from these source systems and then push it into our S3 data lake. Our S3 data lake has over 150 buckets and over 462 terabytes of data. So this is a massive storage facility for data. From there, our data is loaded into our enterprise data warehouse, which is Redshift. This is done through a tool called Control-M. So these files are compressed and then pushed into our data warehouse. We have over 500 or over 5,000 different tables and over 190 different schemas. From there, data is further transformed in the data warehouse. And so this is called data enrichment. And so this is when we're creating new tables and staging tables. So this is allowing the university to create standardization and consistency across the terms and data used at ASU. So we're doing these main things during enrichment. So data cleaning, identifying any type of data shortcomings, creating documentation and metadata across the university and the data. We're aggregating the data, and lastly, creating new tables. So now I'm going to hand it over to Matt for this next stage in our data ecosystem now that our data is all clean.
Thank you, Alexis. So once we've got clean, usable data, we're going to want to pull it out and put it in any number of different things, whether it's a visualization or just an Excel file. And the way we do that is with one of our various data extraction tools. So the first place that you start is on an AWS workspace, Amazon workspace. This is where all of your tools live. It is something you have to request access to. You will not have access to the data warehouse or any of the tools outside of this. Now, you can always get your own version of Tableau for your own machine, but purchasing a license through the university, you're going to end up with it here. So go ahead and move forward. Data tools are used to do a variety of things. Not all data tools are created equal. They don't all do the same thing. Some are for visualization, some are for extraction and manipulation of data. We're going to start, I think, with the extraction and manipulation. So obviously, we already talked about AWS. One of the main tools that a lot of people will refer to around here and use pretty frequently is Alteryx. Alteryx is a visual tool, so you have individual tools within it that you can connect and use that to build your queries, extract data, move it to AUDB, put it in an Excel file, any number of different things. It's used to transform and analyze data, whatever data. We also primarily are using dbeaver for a lot of the people who are just producing reports. That is writing SQL queries. And we have a number of databases that you can connect to. Primarily, data warehouse is going to be your first stop. There's also RStudio. I know a lot of people do use Python and RStudio to do some analytics work. I know they're not as popular as dbeaver and Alteryx, but they are available on the workspace. Python, we're kind of, I think we had a different version of a tool to use. Right now it's Miniconda, so command line Python. I hope you guys like that. Go ahead, go to the next. So here's some pictures. These are kind of what the tools look like. I didn't include Python because it's command line. I think you know what a command prompt looks like. This is an Alteryx workflow over here on the left. It shows data coming out of a source file, moving into a couple of different areas that things are being transformed in, and then it's being put back into another data file. Up here on the right is dbeaver with just a simple query of the term code file and our table. And then down here on the bottom right is RStudio. So after we've got the data and we want to use it and make an decision-making thing, we're going to put it into a visualization a lot of the time. So we've got several tools available for that. The reason we do visualizations is because it's like the plumbing example from the keynote earlier. People like fancy faucets, right? So we're going to provide you an easy to digest story that makes it easy to make decisions. The tools we've got available to us, we've got Excel, of course, but we've also got ones that people are very familiar with, Report Builder and Power BI. Those are the Microsoft tools. Tableau is probably the most widely used tool right now. The amount of visualizations it can do is only limited by your ability to use Tableau, and there is quite a bit of resources available for that. We've also got Hyperion Desktop. It was primarily used for the, I'm drawing a blank on the old database, the Oracle, but now it's still on there. We've still got the applications for use. So here's a look at some of those. Report Builder and Power BI on the right, Tableau on the left. There's a lot in these tools, so we're not going to dive too deep into them. But we've got those available once again on your AWS, the workspace. And then I'll turn it over to Alexis to talk about consumption.
All right, thanks, Matt. So once you're ready to publish, as we talked about with Matt, we have three main source systems, and those data visualization tools roll up into these servers. So Tableau rolls up to the Tableau server, Power BI and Report Builder roll up into the Analytics Report server, and then when we were talking about Excel, that rolls into SharePoint. So once we're ready, we publish these reports in each one of those source systems. From there, we have a tool called the Analytics Portal. And the Analytics Portal is essentially a one-stop shop for all things data at ASU, meant for a variety of different audiences. So this could be from a data consumer, so a less technical audience, all the way up to a someone who's creating these reports for consumption. So the Analytics Portal hosts reports, dashboards, trainings, our data dictionary, and business glossary. So once we're ready to publish, we first publish our content on one of these different servers. So Tableau, ASU Report Server, or our document library. Our content, we have a synchronization process through the Analytics Portal that goes out to these source systems every hour and identifies if there's new or modified content. So all of that content is then pulled in every hour to the Analytics Portal. We also have a delete script that runs every night. So nightly, if you have deleted any content on those source systems, it's then reflected in the Analytics Portal. So I do want to be clear, you are not publishing to the portal, you're publishing to these source systems, which is then brought into the Analytics Portal via a automation process. So how does the portal work? We have grouped the Analytics Portal and governed access through these things called analytics groups. And analytics groups are the collection of reporting assets. So these are owned and managed by these things called group owners and power users. So those are the people who are publishing these reports on the source systems. All of the content, as I had mentioned, is tied to and accessed via the analytics group. So that's how we're ensuring that the right people are gaining access to the right data is through these analytics groups. So we have two main kind of group roles. So we have our group owner and group power user. So the owners are the ones that are approving access requests. When we have folks that are new to the department, new to ASU, they'll submit something called a data access request. These requests are then sent to data trustees, which are our group owners. So we have at least two people designated to these group roles to ensure that there aren't any bottlenecks when we're approving for access. The other thing is a power user. So those are the people who are actually manipulating, creating, and publishing content for consumption. So they're creating everything for our viewers. And these two, the group owner and the power users, are what we call data custodians. So they are responsible for the data that they're publishing out, meaning that they have to keep in mind who their end audience is and if they should have access to this data. So they have this role of a data custodian. Lastly, we have our viewer. Now, these are the people who are actually consuming content. These are the non-technical folks who are not creating the content, but need it for their job. So think about something like an academic advisor who relies on a report for their job. They're not creating the report, they're just consuming the report. So they would just simply be a group viewer. So as I mentioned, how do I gain access to these tools? We have a few different ServiceNow forms linked in this presentation, which will be distributed after this. But we have our BI request a BI desktop. That's what Matt was talking about with those virtual Amazon workspaces. That's where you'll be doing your types of analysis, where all those tools are living. We have add software to a BI desktop. So as we were mentioning, something like Alteryx or Tableau, There is some type of payment for certain tools such as Alteryx. There is a cost associated with the license. So we have to request that through that form. Same with Tableau. And then lastly, the reporting data access request. And that's what I was mentioning with the analytics groups. And do we have an example? No, we don't. All right. So yeah, the data access request form will essentially break it down into if you want to request to be a viewer or a power user, as we mentioned those roles earlier, and then it will have you select a data area, which is the actual name of the analytics group that you would like to be a part of. And then there will be an automated approval process that goes to the data trustees. And then we'll automatically grant you access to whichever data set you are requesting access for. So now I'm going to hand it over to Matt to talk about our responsibility as a data custodian with data governance.
And I'll just add on the data access request form is also the same form that you do your requests for schemas in both ODS and data warehouse. So it's a little tricky to use and you have to be kind of cognizant of which of those options you're picking. So it's a very powerful form. Now let's talk about governance. Everyone here is a data steward. You're all responsible for ensuring that both our student data, which is the main thing that we're going to be talking about most of the time, but also HR data, any of the protected information that ASU uses, it is your responsibility to make sure that it is kept within our environment. And there's a lot of laws out there about FERPA. I mean, FERPA is the federal law that protects students' data. There's nothing out there regulation-wise on the rest of it yet. So the main reason that we bring that up is AI is exploding. Everybody has got their favorite preferred AI tool. We've got a list of ones that you are allowed to use, especially when it comes to using FERPA data. You're not just supposed to be taking your CSV file that you export and going out to your most favorite AI tool and sticking it in there. So please review the AI Digital Trust Guidelines and ensure you understand those responsibilities. You're all going to take a FERPA course at some point if you haven't already, but it's not something that you repeat. So keep it in mind. Remember that you're responsible for it and the people that you give the data to are also responsible for it. And now support resources. Now we've got a number of these available to us. We've got the pages within the analytics portal. All of these are links. Once we distribute out this slideshow, you'll be able to click on these. On the analytics portal, we've got consultations and the data academies linked within there, along with the data dictionary. And is that where the data classification tool is, or does that live somewhere else? Okay, so that lives somewhere else, but this link does point to it. We've also got a number of Slack channels. Those are the easiest place to start most of the time. It's very easy to go into where's that data and ask your question, and you usually will get an answer within an hour or two. So we've got a good group of people who want to support each other. Hopefully you would like to join that group. And when you learn something and someone asks that question that you can answer, you jump right in. So Slack channels linked up there at the top. We've also got a snippet repository. Now, this is a file share that you have to map, which means you're going to have to know at least a little bit of Windows or Mac file stuff. So once you get in there, we've got some SQL code or Alteryx workflows that performs tasks that are frequently done by various departments around ASU. We've saved them there so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So very useful, and more people should probably be using it than currently do. I think that's everything on there. Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah, okay. Now we're gonna, oh, yes, what was your question, sir? The question is, what type of version control systems are we using? The web portal, the analytics portal itself, when you publish to these various servers, like the bi.arizona.edu is the web page that you'll end up with your Tableau reports. If you actually are logged in there on your power user account, you can see the old versions of the published dashboards. They're not viewable within the actual analytics portal. Now, obviously, you've got your options to do things within your own machine, but yeah, your version control it's kind of on you as the publisher. But old versions are available, so as long as they're within that bi.arizona.edu one. I know that.
Any other questions before we do a demo of the analytics portal? Yes, it is. And if you want to ping me after, I can also just Slack it to you so you don't have to wait for the presentation as well. Awesome. So it depends on the job. It depends on the scheduler. It really varies per different system and the data owner. It's not at necessarily an enterprise level. It's based on the need of the end data user. All right.
Most of the important things seems to be.
Yeah, I don't know if you could have heard Matt, but most of the important, crucial data sets are refreshed nightly. All right, so here is the analytics portal. If you have not seen it, this is what your landing page looks like. Over here on the left, you have access to your recently viewed reports and your favorites. Favorites are, the content that you want to view later instead of having to, bookmark it. You can do it here within our system via, I'll show you in a bit, but there's a star icon on all of the content here. And here are your groups that we had talked about earlier, right? This is how we're governing our different content, which I'll dig into. And then as a power user, you also have an easily available resource management tool here on the left to view the content that you've published, to view content in a draft state. And when we say it's in a draft state, it means it's not, it's in the source system, so it's in the analytics portal, but it is not viewable to just general viewers. It's just viewable to your power users. And, that's intended to, if there's any other changes you want to make to your content before you do the final push, such as adding tags and associating metadata, it'll sit in your draft state until you publish it. And then bulk tagging. So we understand a lot of groups have quite a bit of content, hundreds of pieces of content in here. And we want to ensure it's an easy method of tagging and associating metadata. The metadata is what is driving our search engine, so it's really crucial for our users to be associating metadata. Plug later, there's a metadata presentation, so please come. But digging into our groups, this is what, an example might look like. I'm going to go, I have one called the Power User Lounge. And here is the landing page. And as a power user, you do have access to completely revamp all of these landing pages. So you can tailor your user's experience completely by yourself without needing to know any HTML. This is completely zero code. We're leveraging something called Layout Builder to enable our power users to build out really clean, intuitive, landing pages. At the very top here, we have a variety of different subsections of content for specifically that group. So for example, if I wanted to see the reports associated, I just simply click on the reports tab and I can see everything that was published specifically to this group. You can also further filter by title, the source system, which again, document library, report server, or Tableau, and the published status. Now, again, if you are just a general viewer, you would not be able to see any of this unpublished content. You would only see what's published. So just, for the sake of a demo, I'm filtering for published content. So this is what your viewer would see. You would not see any of the other, clutter that was unpublished. Additionally, in the analytics portal, we have this top navigation banner that breaks data up into 3 main different categories: resource type, which is reports, training, our data dictionary, and our business glossary; by enterprise, so as you know, ASU's split into 3 enterprises: academic, knowledge, and learning. And then also within data domain. So, high level, what type of data is being leveraged within these reports, which are business and finance, enterprise partners, IT, learner, and student. So as an example, if I'm interested in academic enterprise data, here is the landing page that their team has built out. They have some key dashboards highlighted, some resources at the bottom, and at the very bottom here, all content that's tagged with academic enterprise is showcased. Now, a key feature is just this general search. How I had showed you before to navigate to content was through the groups tab, but there is the opportunity to look across the entire university to see what options are available. So since I am the admin of the site, I'm able to see all of the content, but in your case, you will not have access to all of the groups. Instead of a star here, if you do not have access to that content, it would simply be a locked icon. But through our global search, you're able to search just generally for a title or a description. And we have all of these awesome filters here on the left. So subject domain, data domain, purpose. This makes finding a report a lot more like shopping on Amazon rather than just, a general search. And as I said earlier, you can favorite reports easily by clicking here on this favorite icon, and it'll show up in your favorites. So, any questions on the analytics portal or navigating? Okay. Should I show the data dictionary?
Yeah, sure.
And we also mentioned data dictionary and business glossary as key features of, as your analyst experience. The data dictionary is really key to understanding the data that you're using. This is what's defining the terms, schemas, columns, and tables. If you ever have any questions, you can first reference this data dictionary asset, or you can go to the Where's That Data Slack that channel, which is in our presentation. Through the data dictionary, you can filter by column, schema, or table, by database, which we had gone over our EDW, AEDB, or ODS, by schema, or by table. Now, lastly, I don't have it bookmarked. Do you know how to get there? Lastly, we're going to showcase our ServiceNow form for our data access request. We understand it might be a little bit confusing the first time you're submitting an access request, so Matt's going to go through and show you how to fill one out.
All right, you're going to see this form a lot. This is what you are going to request access to, both schemas within the databases and the analytics portal. Zoom out a little bit here. There we go. So your data, really, we need the freeze logo at the top of it. Okay, so when you're requesting access, you're going to go to this ServiceNow form. It's if you could follow the breadcrumbs up at the top too, if you wanted to do that instead of waiting for the links to be sent. We are going, like we said earlier, we're going to send this out to people, so don't fret. But within the data and reporting and analytics ServiceNow section is this request form. When you go into it, you'll need to put in your, username, department, all that good stuff. It should autofill almost all of it. And then you're going to get down to data area types. Now, this is where we were talking about the various things that you can request access to. Here's the viewer and power user access for the analytics groups. But we've also got the AUDB request right here. So these are for the read-only access or to read and write to AUDB. We've got Campaign Builder on here. And then we've got our Enterprise Data Warehouse in ODS, Operational Data Store. When you select these different things, it changes the next section, the data area name, to reflect what is within those sections. So we did analytics group, power user. Here's all the power user groups, or the power. Here's all the groups that you can request as access to as a power user, right? If you don't want to do a group and you instead want to get access to a schema, say in the data warehouse, you would select the enterprise data warehouse, and then you would find in here the schema you need. Now, most people get by on just student information. There is a whole lot of schemas in here that have access to those various source system tables. The HR and financial ones are a little more locked down, so you may find it easier to get access to some than others, but it is a approval process. You submit a form, your immediate supervisor approves it, and then it goes over to the department that is in charge of these areas. The other thing to keep in mind, if you are going to access stuff in the ODS, it specifically calls out, here you go, ODS handling, data handling. This is not for doing reporting. This is for creating applications. It is nice to have it on your own personal account when you need to do some exploratory work and figure out where you're getting data out of the tables. But when it comes to actually producing a finished application, there are things that we call service accounts. That's the same term we use, right? Okay. We use them, usually, your department will have one for publishing Tableau, doing Alteryx workflows, so that you can set these things up in perpetuity. You want to have a Alteryx workflow continue to work even after you have left and your account is no longer active. So we'll use these service accounts. That's the application ID. That's what we usually call them. There you go. The application ID for your application that you actually create that accesses ODS, that should be what you end up using in the final product. If you access ODS on a personal account, A. Pummel, MT Clement, you're going to want to restrict that usage to just doing that initial exploratory stuff. So keep that in mind. It's not a reporting warehouse. That's what the EDW is for. Any questions about any of this stuff? No? All right. Alexa showed you the power user lounge. When it comes to making these requests and you're needing to go in here and add, I need my student area, that's one. So this is one request. The next one you would go in and say, I also need to do HR data. There's another form that you filled out. So a really valuable resource. She showed us earlier this power user lounge. When I have a person in my department who already has the access, I can come in here to the power user lounge and I can pull in the access check. Shouldn't have gotten so far ahead of myself because we got to wait for pages to load. There's an access check here, right? You can see what one of your users already has access to. So if you've got, say, an app account, an app ID that your department uses to publish all of your Tableau files or to publish all of your Alteryx workflows. Oh, really? You go in here, you look up that account, and you can see what schemas it has access to. So we'll just grab, I happen to know this person. So you can see they don't have anything on Hyperion. They've got a couple of things in ODS, a couple of read-only access tables in AUDB. And then up here at the top, here are the data warehouse schemas. So, and all of those are labeled. The block, the section header tells you what we're looking at. So we're looking at the data warehouse schemas right here, financial, human resources, learning, orientation. So that's a real easy way to check. If you've got an existing user, you look up their account and then you just go down the form and you put in each one of those various areas and submit the form. Questions? Anything? All right, well, that pretty much covers the contents of our presentation. What are you guys doing this weekend? No. If there's any questions, we'll take them now. Otherwise, we'll give you back 10 minutes. All right, thank you.